The Isha Upanishad is a profound spiritual scripture that offers timeless wisdom on life, the self, and the divine. Despite its brevity, just 18 verses, it conveys deep philosophical insights that remain highly relevant today. This Upanishad presents a balanced approach to life, teaching both renunciation and active engagement, knowledge and action, and the realization of oneness with the universe. This video explores each verse in detail, offering practical applications that help integrate these spiritual teachings into daily life. Verse 1. Everything is divine. Everything in this transient world is pervaded by the divine. By renouncing attachment, protect your true self. Do not covet what belongs to others. This verse sets the foundation for the entire Upanishad, declaring that the whole universe is infused with the presence of the divine. The message is one of detachment, recognizing that nothing truly belongs to us and that our true nature is beyond material possessions. Coveting or clinging to material things only leads to suffering because they are temporary. The key to freedom is to live with awareness, fulfilling responsibilities while remaining unattached. In practical terms, this teaching encourages gratitude and mindful living. Instead of being driven by greed, comparison, or jealousy, one should cultivate contentment with what life offers. A person who understands this principle will not be disturbed by loss or gain and will live with a deep sense of inner peace and harmony. Verse 2. The path of selfless action. If one desires to live a full life of 100 years, one must live actively, engaging in duties. This is the only way to remain unattached to actions. This verse does not advocate renouncing the world. Instead, it encourages active participation in life while remaining free from attachment. It teaches the art of karma yoga, working without being consumed by results. Action, when performed selflessly and as an offering to the divine, does not create bondage, but instead purifies the mind and leads to liberation. In daily life, this means performing one's duties with sincerity, but without anxiety over outcomes. Whether in the workplace, at home, or in relationships, acting with integrity and detachment brings balance. Stress and frustration arise when we are too fixated on results. By focusing on the quality of our efforts rather than the rewards, we find joy in the process itself. Verse 3. The dangers of ignorance. Indeed, the realms inhabited by the corrupt are shrouded in utter darkness. Following death, those who harm their soul also dwell in these dark regions. Here, the Upanishad warns about the consequences of a life lived in ignorance and selfishness. A person who pursues only material pleasures, disregarding inner wisdom, becomes trapped in a cycle of suffering. Corruption and dishonesty may bring temporary gains, but they ultimately lead to spiritual darkness and inner turmoil. This verse teaches the importance of ethical living. One should always act with honesty, kindness, and self-awareness. Short-term pleasures and unethical choices may seem appealing, but they lead to long-term regret. By cultivating wisdom and morality, one can live a fulfilling and meaningful life. Verse 4. The eternal self. The eternal self, though motionless, is faster than the mind. No sense can surpass it, for it is always ahead. Though stationary, it outruns all that run. By its presence, the life force regulates all life. The self, Atman, is beyond time and space. It is the silent observer behind all actions, unaffected by change. The mind and senses are constantly active, but the self remains still, witnessing all experiences. Recognizing this truth allows us to cultivate inner stillness. Meditation and self-inquiry help us detach from the restless thoughts of the mind and experience the peace of our true self. Instead of being controlled by emotions and external events, one can learn to remain calm, anchored in the awareness of the unchanging self. Verse 5. The omnipresent self. The self is both mobile and immobile. It is far away yet near. It exists inside and outside of everything. This verse emphasizes the all-pervading nature of the self. It is present within every being and at the same time beyond all limitations. Those who seek it within themselves will find it, yet it cannot be confined to any one place. In practical terms, this teaching invites us to see the divine in all things. By treating others with respect and recognizing the unity of life, we develop a sense of belonging and purpose. Instead of feeling isolated or separate, we understand that everything is interconnected. Verse 6. Seeing unity in all. The wise see all creatures in themselves and themselves in all creatures, eliminating hatred. This verse describes the vision of an enlightened person, one who recognizes the unity of all beings. When we see others as part of ourselves, feelings of division, competition, and hatred dissolve. Compassion and empathy naturally arise. To apply this, we must develop a mindset of inclusiveness. Acts of kindness, active listening, and forgiveness become easier when we see others not as separate, but as reflections of ourselves. Whether dealing with conflicts or building relationships, this perspective fosters peace and understanding. Verse 7, freedom from delusion and grief. For one who sees everything as one, there is no delusion or grief, only the vision of unity. Delusion and sorrow come from seeing oneself as separate from the whole. When a person transcends ego and realizes their unity with existence, suffering disappears. This teaching can be applied by shifting our focus from temporary problems to the bigger picture of life. Accepting change, understanding impermanence, and practicing meditation help cultivate this deeper awareness, leading to emotional resilience. Verse 8, the supreme reality. He pervades everything, bright, incorporeal, flawless, and pure, untouched by evil. The eternal watcher, all-knowing, beyond the ordinary and uncreated, he assigns duties to the creators of the world. The divine presence is beyond form, beyond limitation, and beyond human understanding. It is the source of wisdom and guidance. To apply this, one can align their actions with divine principles, truth, integrity, and selfless service. Instead of seeking external validation, we should strive to live in harmony with our higher nature. Verse 9, the pitfalls of ignorance and intellectualism. Those who indulge in ignorance and rituals alone plunge into darkness, but a deeper darkness awaits those who are solely devoted to intellectual knowledge of the divine. This verse highlights the danger of two extremes: blind faith in rituals without understanding, and excessive intellectualism without practice. A life spent only performing religious rituals mechanically, without grasping their deeper meaning, leads to spiritual stagnation. On the other hand, mere theoretical knowledge of spiritual truths without application creates an illusion of wisdom but fails to bring real transformation. In practical life, this verse urges us to balance faith and reasoning. We must not follow traditions blindly, but we also must not become overly analytical, losing touch with the experience of spirituality. A person who only studies spiritual texts but does not meditate, reflect, or practice self-discipline remains disconnected from the essence of that wisdom. Similarly, performing religious acts without inner awareness turns them into empty gestures. The goal is to integrate knowledge with experience so that wisdom is lived rather than just spoken about. Verse 10, the two paths, knowledge and ignorance. Some say knowledge brings one result and ignorance another, as taught by the wise who have explained this to us. This verse explains that both knowledge, vidya, and ignorance, avidya, produce different outcomes in life. Knowledge leads one towards spiritual enlightenment and liberation, while ignorance keeps one bound to the cycle of suffering. The wise teachers of ancient times have emphasized that these two paths are distinct and yield different results. Practically, this verse teaches the importance of conscious decision-making. Every choice we make, whether to seek truth, cultivate wisdom, and live ethically, or to remain complacent, unreflective, and indulgent, shapes our destiny. Ignorance leads to attachment, fear, and restlessness, while knowledge fosters inner peace, detachment, and clarity. Applying this wisdom in daily life means making a conscious effort to seek truth, question assumptions, and embrace self-improvement. It encourages continuous learning, not just intellectually, but through inner realization and personal transformation. Verse 11, harmonizing knowledge and action. One who realizes that both knowledge and ignorance must be pursued together conquers death through ignorance and attains immortality through knowledge. This verse does not suggest that ignorance is desirable. Rather, it acknowledges that both material and spiritual knowledge have their place in life. Ignorance, in this context, refers to engaging with the physical world, work, responsibilities, relationships, while knowledge represents the pursuit of higher spiritual truth. To live a complete life, one must harmonize both aspects, engaging in worldly duties while maintaining spiritual awareness. In practical terms, this means integrating spirituality into everyday life rather than seeing it as separate. A person cannot abandon responsibilities in search of enlightenment, nor should they be so consumed by worldly affairs that they forget their spiritual purpose. For instance, earning a living is necessary, but it should be done ethically and with a sense of detachment. Engaging in family and social life is important, but one must also cultivate inner stillness through meditation and reflection. The balance of these two forces, material engagement and spiritual wisdom, leads to a fulfilled and enlightened existence. Verse 12, the darkness of partial understanding. Those who worship only the unmanifest nature enter dark realms. A deeper darkness awaits those who worship only the manifest deity. This verse highlights the dangers of partial understanding and one-sided devotion. Worshipping only the unmanifest without acknowledging the manifest creates an imbalanced spiritual approach. Similarly, worshipping only the manifest deity leads to a different form of spiritual ignorance. In practical life, this teaching emphasizes the need to see both the visible and invisible aspects of reality. A person who only believes in abstract spiritual concepts but neglects day-to-day responsibilities remains disconnected from life. Conversely, someone who is overly focused on external rituals and material expressions of faith without grasping their deeper meaning is limited in their understanding. To achieve true spiritual progress, we must balance devotion to the seen and the unseen, the form and the formless, action and contemplation. Verse 13, different outcomes of worship. Worship of the manifest yields different results from worship of the unmanifest, according to the wise who have instructed us. Here, the Upanishad clarifies that worshipping the manifest leads to one type of realization, while worshipping the unmanifest leads to another. The wise sages have explained that these two approaches lead to different experiences and destinations in spiritual life. In practical terms, this verse teaches us that people's spiritual journeys vary based on their approach. Some may feel a deep connection to a personal form of God and gain peace and guidance through devotion. Others may prefer abstract meditation on the divine as pure consciousness. Neither path is wrong, but they bring different experiences. The key is to recognize what resonates with one's inner nature, while remaining open to the fact that ultimate truth encompasses both form and formlessness. Instead of rigidly following only one path, integrating both aspects, devotional practice and deep meditation, can lead to a more complete spiritual experience. Verse 14. The path to immortality. By worshiping both the manifest and the unmanifest aspects of nature, one can overcome death through the manifest and achieve immortality through the unmanifest. This verse suggests that a balanced approach, embracing both the manifest and unmanifest aspects of divinity, leads to spiritual fulfillment. The manifest aspect helps us navigate worldly existence, while the unmanifest aspect leads to ultimate liberation. By engaging with the material world wisely, we overcome the fear of death, and by realizing the eternal reality beyond forms, we attain spiritual immortality. In practical life, this teaching encourages a harmonious spiritual practice that includes both active engagement in the world and inner realization. Engaging in good actions, serving others, and practicing devotion provide a meaningful existence, while meditation, self-inquiry, and contemplation of the formless divine help us transcend the fear of mortality. A balanced life is not about choosing between spiritual and material pursuits, but about integrating them so that both serve the higher purpose of self-realization. Verse 15, the golden veil of truth. The gateway to truth is obscured by a golden veil. O sustainer of life, remove this veil for me so that I, who seek the truth, may experience it. This verse is a heartfelt prayer from the seeker to the divine, asking for the removal of the illusions that obscure ultimate truth. The golden veil symbolizes the distractions of the material world, wealth, power, desires, ego, and intellectual arrogance that prevent us from seeing the deeper spiritual reality. Though these things may appear beautiful and desirable, they act as barriers to true wisdom. In practical life, this teaching reminds us that the mind, conditioned by attachments and false perceptions, can create obstacles to experiencing reality as it is. Spiritual awakening requires an intentional effort to see beyond these illusions. To remove the veil, one must cultivate purity of thought, self-discipline, humility, and devotion. Meditation, prayer, and selfless service help to dissolve the ego and open the mind to divine truth. Instead of being consumed by worldly success, we must use our material resources as tools for inner growth, ensuring that they do not blind us from the real purpose of life. Self-realization. Verse 16, the blessed form of the sun. O life-giver, solitary traveler of the heavens, ruler, son, offspring of the Creator, retract your rays and gather your light so I can see your most blessed form. I am that person who resides within you. In this verse, the seeker addresses the sun, not just as a celestial body, but as a divine symbol of ultimate knowledge and illumination. The rays of the sun represent the outward distractions of life, various desires, emotions, and thoughts that scatter the mind. The prayer is for the sun to withdraw its outward brilliance so that the seeker may experience its pure essence, which is the divine light of truth. On a practical level, this verse teaches us that spiritual clarity requires focusing inward. Just as excessive light can obscure vision, an overstimulated mind, full of unchecked thoughts and desires, prevents deep understanding. To attain wisdom, we must gather and direct our mental energies through mindfulness, contemplation, and disciplined spiritual practice. The realization that I am that person who resides within you signifies the deep truth that the divine presence is not external but exists within us. When the mind becomes still and distractions fade, we recognize that the source of divine light, the truth we seek, has always been within our own being. Verse 17, preparing for death. Let my life return to the universal and eternal breath. May this body be reduced to ashes. Om. Mind, remember all that I have done. This verse encourages a fearless attitude toward death. The body perishes, but the soul is eternal. By accepting death as a natural transition, we learn to live fully. Letting go of fear allows us to focus on what truly matters: love, wisdom, and service. Verse 18, the final prayer for guidance. The Upanishad ends with a prayer for divine guidance on the righteous path. It acknowledges human limitations and seeks purification from past mistakes. This reminds us that humility and devotion are essential. We should constantly refine ourselves, seek higher truths, and live in alignment with our purpose. In conclusion, the Isha Upanishad provides a roadmap for spiritual living. It teaches detachment, selfless action, unity, and wisdom. Its insights encourage us to go beyond material concerns and seek the eternal truth within. By integrating these teachings, we can live with integrity, peace, and a deep sense of purpose. Please like this video, subscribe, or follow this channel, and share the timeless wisdom with the world. Om Tat Sat.